All right, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I'm your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass. Live in the color here with you on Grande's Graveyard. How we doing, everybody? I hope we're doing Gucci Poochie tonight. I hope everybody's doing well, getting ready for the weekend. It's going to be really, really nice. The weather's been really nice this week, aside from probably Wednesday, but you can't have every week perfect. Tonight on the show, though, we're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite horror movie series. That's right, it's one of the best ever. It is Don Coscarelli's infamous Phantasm movie series. Hell yeah, ladies and gentlemen. 5 movies, no regrets. So I can tell a little bit of Don Coscarelli's backstory here with Hollywood. We're just going to jump right into this thing and, kind of give you a little bit of background on who Don Coscarelli is for people that don't know, that aren't that familiar with his work. Basically, Don Coscarelli was this young up and coming filmmaker in the early 70s. And before this, he had made films like Jim, the World's Greatest, and Kenny and Company, which was like a cool little coming of age film that starred actually some of the same people that went on to be in these Phantasm movies, including Angus Scrimm and Reggie Bannister and A. Michael Simpson, or A. Michael Baldwin. Is it A. Michael Baldwin or A. Michael? I always forget. A. Michael Baldwin. Sorry, not A. Michael Simpson. Michael Simpson directed fucking Sleepaway Camp sequels. You see what I mean? These good things I check. And the thing right off the bat that really speaks the loudest of volumes about Don Coscarelli is the fact that he really told Hollywood to kiss his ass. This is a guy that he made 2 really good movies to start off with. Then he made a classic in Phantasm, which I'm going to be reviewing in depth. I absolutely adore this movie. This is easily my favorite of the entire series. After he made Phantasm, Hollywood really wanted him to kind of be one of their top guys, and he went on to direct Beastmaster, which he said that had a lot of studio problems, unfortunately, and the studio really dabbled in his direction on that project. So, unfortunately, Beastmaster didn't turn out to be as successful as he wanted it, or the studio wanted it, for that matter. That was kind of just, clashing of creative. But why I really respect Don Coscarelli is because this is a guy that really was handed nothing and kind of took everything. And he was able to bring his own creative flair to the table. And I think what gets lost among a lot of filmmakers eventually they'll sell out. Like after a while, they'll make their creative little gems, and then they'll just make remakes or they'll just make sequels. Like one guy that reminds me of that is Alex Aja. He made High Tension, and then he comes to America and he makes Mirrors. He makes the Hills of Eyes remake. He makes Piranha remake. He makes all these kind of remakes, and I'm just kind of sitting there scratching my head. I'm like, why did you sell out to Hollywood? Like, make another High Tension, make another film where you are the one in creative control. I just always felt that some filmmakers sell out and do that, and that's fine. Like, hey, if you have the talent to sell out and cash in, I don't see a problem in that. However, I just really respect Don Coscarelli for not doing that. I think that's the coolest thing about Don Coscarelli. He always wanted to be one of those guys that makes his vision, that makes his own movie, and he doesn't give a shit about what Hollywood thinks or what the majority thinks. He just wants to make his own films, and I really respect Don Coscarelli for that. So it'll be fun talking about all these movies because I'm actually a huge fan of Don Coscarelli's movies in general. I mean, Survival Class is a really, really good movie. I really also enjoy his film Bubba Hotep, starring Bruce Campbell as this kind of Elvis impersonator in this retirement home, and there are these people that are stealing souls, and it's a wacky ass movie but a lot of fun. Of course, John dies at the end. Of course, his Masters of Horror effort, Incident on and Off Mountain Road, starring Angus Scrimm again coming back to collaborate with Don Coscarelli, and of course Moonface. Really cool stuff. I really like Don Coscarelli's work. I think he makes good movies and interesting movies, and that's why I'm really excited to talk Phantasm today. We've had a couple of people in the comments. I've always wondered, what is Reggie the character's last name? Supposed to be not Reggie Bannister. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Hello, I just watched Pelts for the first time. Awesome gory film. Ooh, absolutely love Pelts. That's one of my favorite Argento episodes of. I mean, both. I love both episodes of Argento in Masters of Horror series, but that one in particular is just so much fucking fun. I love that scene where Meatloaf is about to get the lap dance, and you have like this really cool red door, like it's a shot of him sitting in front of a red door, just like kind of this beam of light as this kind of stripper walks in. It's a fucking that's a great ass episode, man. Yes, he did make Crawl. That's a great movie. I really liked Crawl. Yeah, I liked Crawl too. Definitely. The mountain episode was great. Yeah, I really do like Incident on and Off Mountain Road. Really good stuff. And I think when I talk about Aja, I don't mean to harp on him. I just wish we had gotten more original stuff like Crawl, like Horns, like high tension. And like that's the thing that we got that from Don Coscareli from the word go. Other than maybe Beastmaster, you probably get that kind of effort every time out from Don Coscareli. So without further ado, we can jump right in to the Phantasm series. I have this little cool 5-movie collection. I don't have the Blu-ray Spear set. I think it goes for stupid money. Like I think it goes for over $100. And I believe Shout Factory did a box set of these movies, which goes over for like $200. So they can kiss my ass, to be honest with you. I got this at Best Buy for $10. All five Phantasm movies, $10, $2 a movie. Can't fucking beat it. So I love this little set. However, I did years and years ago when they remastered this. I believe, weirdly enough, J.J. Abrams, Jar Jar Abrams himself, who had this original movie remastered, and I got the Blu-ray of the original Phantasm from 1979. Ooh, yeah. This is absolutely one of my favorite horror movies of all time. This is just an absolute masterpiece, a classic, and it tells the story of Michael Baldwin, and he's this kid in this kind of small town, and his brother comes home because one of their friends died, and the brother Jody and Reggie attend the funeral, and basically Michael's kind of spying on them, and he notices some weird shit going on in Morningside Cemetery, and there's this mysterious tall man played by legendary Angus Scrimm up to no good. And basically, that's where you kind of get your setup for this movie. And this is what I like to say a perfect blend between the kind of horror films that were coming out in the late 70s, especially in Italy. This is definitely more along the lines of feeling like a Fulci film, feeling like an Argento film. But this is an American film. So while you have that kind of foreign style, add upon the kind of American acting and American story, I think this is such a perfect kind of meshing of the two. Like if Suspiria and Star Wars had a baby, I think you'd get Phantasm. Like I just pull that on my ass, but I think that would be close to, if not exactly, the result here. And I think the creativity is just what draws me into this movie so much. Like, it is so mysterious. It is so dream-like. And I think that is the intention from Don Coscarelli. And I think he just absolutely nails it and knocks the fucking ball out of the park. Because here you have this young character, and I saw this as a kid, so I was able to really relate to him. And, you learn early on that his parents have passed away, so your heart really goes out to him in the beginning, and there are just some of the scenes of him following the tall man in the cemetery, and you see the tall man lifts up an entire casket by himself with one arm and throws it in the back of a hearse. And there are scenes where he's walking around this mausoleum, and the legendary spear that this movie just is infamous for, kind of starts chasing him around and stabs one guy in the head and drills a hole in his head. Just absolutely fucking crazy ass stuff. Like, it is really terrifying to watch this movie through the eyes of a child, and that's basically what our lead child is. Our lead actor is a child, so we kind of watch this movie through his eyes. Even if you're not a kid, you can kind of see it through the eyes of a kid, and I thought that was really cool. I like, of course, all the characters in this. Jody, played by Bill Thornberry. I really like his character. Of course, Reggie, played by Reggie Bannister, and their chemistry. I just absolutely loved their chemistry together. There are scenes where they're together on the porch just playing songs during the middle of the day. And I love the song, which is sitting here at midnight, da-na-na, 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 and I'll be sitting here till noon. There's something so natural about it. There's something so innocent, like kind of like next door neighbor innocent quality to it. And I just absolutely love it. It really makes this film feel genuine and authentic. It's their friendship and it's their kind of like, stay out of this, Michael. Like we got this. And I think that's the coolest thing about it. Um, there are scenes where Jody's trying to get laid, and Michael kind of inadvertently causes it not to happen, and you find out that the girl trying to seduce Jody is in fact the tall man shapeshifted into this hot blonde woman that you get on the cover here. Thought that was really cool. I was like, oh shit, he inadvertently, you think he was cock blocking his brother, but he inadvertently saved his brother's life. I thought that was really, really cool. We have some comments here. I don't want to go too fast here. Let's see. Speaking of Shout Factor, in case anybody's wondering, no, Victor and Sean have not come to a deal. I spoke to them, both Victor through email, Sean through his number. I was at Best Buy before the virus. That Spear set was $200. That's fucking crazy to me. Like for 5 movies, that's nuts. If they ever made Phantasm Sex, I have an idea how they could continue it and take a note from Doctor Who and said that the tall man regenerated. That would be interesting. If they make Phantasm 666, they should do it with the tall man no from Doctor Who. That would be interesting. Need Gore's in the Heezy. What's up, Need Gore? Hope all is well with you, good brother. I need to watch Phantasm series, but I heard the 5th one is shit. We'll get into the 5th one. 5th one has a lot of setbacks, but it's fun. Yeah, no doubt. Reggie is a good ice cream man, but hey, a little boy wants some ice cream. LOL, bad joke. All right, I got the joke. Very good. Yeah, these characters though, they're so goddamn likable. Like I love Reggie Bannister, especially as the series goes on. He almost becomes the series action star. Like he becomes like kind of like the Sylvester Stallone of the series or something like that. Like the good quadruple barrel shotgun, which we'll get to in the sequels. And I don't know. I really like his character. I think he's a lot of fun in these movies, especially the sequels. He's really good. He's not that much in this one, but this one, it just, like I said, man, it just has the perfect combination of all of these elements that were working at horror at the time, but he took them from different places and makes them work in one film. And that's what I really, really like about this movie. It's basically, what's crazy about this is this was originally going to be a 3-hour long movie. And so a lot of this movie got cut. And I know that in the 4th one, they show a lot of the footage that was shot for this and later left on the cutting room floor. So he was able to get that kind of footage out there. I wonder one day if we'll ever get a full uncut edition of the first film, like a full 3-hour uncut movie. I don't know if that exists out there. If it does, please somebody let me know because I'd be interested to see it. Like there are some characters in this movie that show up like in the middle of the film. I know there's just one character, it's this lady. She shows up and she kind of scares the shit out of Reggie, and then she's never seen or heard from again after the film, and you never see her before that. So it's really weird, like that kind of scene that's just like almost spliced in there, and they're just like shit. Like we just introduced this character, she has no name, but we're just gonna leave this in just because why not? I thought that was really funny, but this is, I think another really cool thing about this is I believe Don Coscareli's parents helped fund this entire movie. Like they put up the money for him to make this. And if my parents gave me the money to make my own horror film and I made something this good, man, I would be making them proud. And like that's another thing with Don Coscarelli. Like his parents took the time, they took the literal money and effort to see their son succeed. And this is the movie that made Don Coscarelli a star and a really big horror director in the community at a time where we were booming. I mean, you had Craven, you had Romero, you had Carpenter, you had Hooper. He had all these guys, Argento and Fulci, that were booming at the time. And for Coscarelli to come on the scene first time out making a horror film and he hits out of the park like this, absolutely incredible. It really is. I love there's these little Jawa kind of minions that work for the tall man. It's really funny. They have like the little brown cloaks and whatnot, just like the Jawas from Star Wars. I love that. There's a scene towards the end where they find the other dimension from where what separates them and the world of the dead and stuff like that, where the tall man is kind of going back and forth and stuff. I really that stuff is so fucking cool and surreal. It's just this like really bright white room, and they're all in there like looking around, and like I remember as a kid being like, "What the fuck? Like this is so interesting." I absolutely love this. It's just epic stuff. I really, really do enjoy this, and I don't know, man. I just personally say that this has it all. It really does have it all. I think it's one of those perfectly well-rounded films where everything in it has almost become iconic now. Like the tall man is iconic now. The sphere is iconic now. The look of the little dead minions and the Jawas, it's iconic now. Of course, Reggie Bannister, Jody, Michael, and the classic final scene, boy, and the mirror breaking. And I think everything in it is just so iconic. And I love probably my favorite scene in this movie, and a scene that a lot of people don't ever really mention, is a scene where Michael actually goes early on in the film to see this kind of gypsy slash fortune teller woman, right? And she has these kind of dark glasses on, and she tells Michael, "Put your hand in this box." She puts a box in front of him, and Michael puts his hand in the box, and he starts screaming. He's in pain, and as he starts screaming in pain, the woman says to him, "You need to let go of the fear. We know that you're afraid to put your hand in this box. You don't know what's in this box. It's the fear of the unknown that is keeping you from putting your hand in this box. But once you do, once you face it, you have to overcome your fears. You have to learn to face the music." And it's through his acknowledgement of that he's able to face his fears, and later on in the film he's able to face the tall man. He's able to face his fears and overcome them. And I love that motif. I think that's such a goddamn smart motif to tackle in a horror film, where someone, you could be afraid, but that does not mean you can't fight back. You just have to admit that, you have to confront that, and you have to move on from that. And like that's the thing about this first Phantasm movie that, dare I say, I don't think any of the rest of them really have. Like we'll get into the sequels in just a minute here, but I think that motif is what sets this first one apart. It's the fear of the unknown and being able to face it. I think that's just so damn smart. And they really, in this movie, they don't explain anything. They don't explain who the tall man is. They don't explain where he comes from. They give you hints, they give you suggestions, but at the end of the day, there's no real clear answer. And that's what makes it creepy. That's what makes it aesthetically pleasing to look at, and that's what makes it interesting. So I adore the original Phantasm movie. I will come in at a 10 out of 10 on this one. One of my favorite all-time horror movies. I highly recommend this Blu-ray. The transfer is great. The price is right. I believe this goes for like $7-8 now. Can't really beat it. I think you could still get this 5-movie set and afford to get this on Blu, because this Blu-ray does look really, really good. And of course, I would be remiss to not mention, excuse me, the legendary score in this movie. The really good stuff. Like coming off of great scores of the time, like Halloween. I think this movie and Suspiria, this movie's score fits right in there. It's a classic horror movie score. This is just one of those instances. It's lightning in a bottle, man. Don Coscareli, he went out there, he tried to be creative, and it really, really works. I think this movie really pays off. So I couldn't recommend the original Phantasm any more than this. It's perfect 10 out of 10 for me. We got, sorry, this fell over. Next up, this is the 5-movie Phantasm set. I guess I could read some more. Let's see. I love Reggie. He's definitely like the Ash of the series, badass. Yes, exactly. He really does become that in these sequels, and that's why he's really likable. And he's always trying to get ass, which is always really funny. I know they show some cut footage in the fourth Phantasm. Yes, Don's parents are legends. Yeah, they really are. That's really cool, man. Yeah, the Phantasm score is awesome. I highly, highly agree with you. I wish I could get my parents. Yeah, exactly. I think we all do. But hey, man, that's pretty cool. Nigor, I wish I could get your parents to fund you a movie. Yeah, everybody. I wish everybody's parents could fund the movie for them. Yeah, same thing. My parents are broke too, so no worries, man. You know, Don Cosgrelli also born and raised in California, so I'm assuming his parents were very not broke. Like, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that they were not broke, but you know, it is what it is. So coming in next, it is going to be. Oh, I can show you guys this little set here. This is a weird one. You see, you'd expect normally you have the little flaps like a book, but this is just all. It's 5 discs, you know, back to back. So I'll show you. There's the first Phantasm. I'll put that down. And then you get, of course, Phantasm Part Two. This was, and it's funny because, like, I think this movie has caused all these sorts of problems over the years when you're trying to get the movies all together, like, because it's technically a Universal film. So there's a lot of weird things with this movie. And I think weird things in a good way in a lot of the sense, but weird things in some bad ways too. Like, for some reason they recasted the well, I guess I could take out just the disc, hold the disc up, right? It's a little weird, but I don't have a cover for it, so it is what it is. They recasted Michael Baldwin with James LaGrosse in this movie, and I think he does a good job. But at the same time, it's very strange because they go back and forth between him, Michael LaGrosse, and then back to or James LaGrosse, and then back to Michael Baldwin. I thought that was very strange. Like, there's very few series that go back to the original person once they're recasted. But I don't know. I thought for what it's worth, I thought James LaGrosse did a good job. I think it was one of those things that Universal demanded at the time from Don Coscareli. And I will say right off the bat that this is one of those sequels that really tones up the everything. Like, this is one of those movies. It's like the Terminator 2. It's like the Aliens. It's like, you know, all these sequels that go back and kind of take what the original did and then turn the volume up to 11. We had, you know, some spear killing in the first one. Let's do more spear killing in this one. We didn't show the Jawas in the first one. We just kind of showed their little cloaks. Let's show them right off the bat in this movie. We didn't have any like fancy, crazy stuff, special effects. Let's have a fucking explosion. Let's have a house explode within the opening 5 minutes of this movie. It's definitely one of those sequels that turns up everything. Like, let's dial this up to 11. Let's show the world that now we have the budget to work with here, and which they did. This is definitely the highest budgeted Phantasm film of the series, thanks to Universal. But again, they do change these little things. Like, I believe that Don Coscarelli, there was a certain direction he wanted to take this movie in, and they probably were like, no, I mean, we can go sort of down this road, but we want you to take a detour and make it about basically the plot is that James LaGrosse's character, he's playing Michael from the first one. He is trying to get in contact with this girl and save her. Like, they have this kind of telepathy thing going on, and he hops in the car with Reggie after the tall man decimates Reggie's family in a really badass scene where, you know, the tall man, their house just explodes, and you see this awesome shot of the tall man walking out. It's one of my favorite shots of the series because he just looks unfazed by it. Like Angus Scrimm, and I'll get into Angus Scrimm, you know, and his importance to the series, how great Angus Scrimm is in these movies. That shot of him is just so badass. He's a fucking G. Angus Scrimm, there's no other way around it. Angus Scrimm is a fucking G, and I think he's the reason that these movies really stand the test of time for me. But yeah, Reggie and Michael, they're on the road, and you know, they just start kind of preparing. They get I know Ty Junebug mentioned the quadruple barrel shotgun. That's awesome. Of course, Reggie concocts this quadruple barrel shotgun and kills a lot of the henchmen with it and has these fun battles, like chainsaw battles towards the end. This is one of those movies that for an hour it feels like a Phantasm film, like it feels like the first one in a lot of tone, I guess, you know, just dialed up a little bit. And then the finale is just balls to the wall fun. I love the finale of this movie. It is like a crazy kick-ass action horror finale, and I just adore every goddamn minute of that finale. It's so much fun. There's this one guy who he's chasing James LaGrosse and his girl, and this giant like golden sphere starts chasing them, and this one can like break through walls, break through doors, and they're kind of like waiting for the thing to come. They get out of the way at the last second, and this thing hits this guy, goes through his mouth, and just like kind of incisions itself through his face, and it's all this crazy great makeup effects by the legendary Greg Nicotero, who he worked on this film, does a really good job. He actually, I don't know if he was on the commentary or if it was an interview on this. This was, I believe this is the Scream Factory edition of it. It says Scream Factory over here somewhere. Yeah, Scream Factory. He was talking about how the challenges of making these special effects of this movie work, and I thought the special effects in this movie really do shine. Like, because you're looking at, it's 1988 by this point, so he had really started to come into his own. I mean, this is post Day of the Dead, this is post Creepshow 2, this is, I think, technically post Intruder, because Intruder was shot in 87, didn't come out till 89. So he was really coming into his own and doing some of the best stuff in the genre at that point. I'd dare to say even better than Tom Savini at this point, because he was just on it, man. And some of the special effects in this movie are absolutely incredible. I just think Greg Nicotero did a wonderful job. And once again, man, I think this movie, it does a good job at feeling surreal, but it does a good job for the fans that, I know there are some people that will watch the original Phantasm and go, I mean, I like the idea, but it was a little boring. So if you're one of those people, the second film, it tones up everything. It is anything but boring. Of course, there's this one character that's like, originally she seems like she would never get with Reggie Bannister's character. Of course, after a while, she does get with Reggie Bannister's character. It's a really funny ass scene where they're having sex, and Reggie's just like, "Take it easy, baby." And I just, man, some of the scenes with Reggie in these movies, they just crack me the fuck up, man. I think he is such a funny ass character, and like, there's some really good shocks and turns in this one. Like the ending of this movie, I remember when I first saw it, I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, because a lot of these end very similar. A lot of these end where, oh, it's just a dream, and then jump scare, and then that's what I always kind of laugh at people that go, jump scares are horrible. You're kidding yourself. Horror movies have jump scares. They've had them since the beginning of fucking time. A jump scare is not necessarily a fucking bad thing. When you do 200 of them within a span of 30 minutes, yeah, that can be overkill. But that's exactly that. There is anything you can overkill, but I don't know. It always baffled me that these critics, they're like, oh, jump scares are all this horrible thing. When in reality, great movies like Phantasm use jump scares. So I don't know exactly what their fucking gripes are, but it is what it is. It's neither here nor there. I think Phantasm 2 is one of those sequels, though, that it really does tone up everything. And I think that in a lot of ways, I know a lot of people that consider it to be the best one. It's not my favorite, probably my second favorite. I think for all the good stuff that it does and all the toning things up, it definitely, you could tell that Universal did have their fingers in it. Like, it's, I'd argue that other than maybe part 5, it's the one that feels the least Phantasm. Like, part 3 feels a lot more aesthetically like the first one. And then part 4, I think part 4 totally feels like the original. I think of all these sequels, part 4 feels the most like the return to form to the original Phantasm. And I don't know. I definitely, I like this movie. I think this is a fun sequel for sure. And I don't know though. I will definitely say that I'm not as big on it as I think everybody else is. I think it's a fun movie, a good movie, but it's definitely one of those movies that it just annoys me that Universal kind of dabbled in a little bit. And I know that Michael Baldwin has gone on to shit on this movie, and he's mad that he was recasted and all this stuff. And I don't know. I can see his gripes, but I do think this has some iconic shit in it. I love some of the scenes, the iconic imagery of the tall man. I love the final act. I think it's a lot of fun. And of course, all the characters, especially Reggie Bannister, really kind of starts to shine. It's not completely his movie, but I think the next movie becomes like completely where Reggie is the star. So Phantasm 2, I'm going to come in at a 7 out of 10 for this one. I enjoy the film. I really like this one, but definitely not an all-time classic. It's solid though. I'll go 7 out of 10 for me. Getting back into some of the comments, they recasted the role because Michael Baldwin did not do anything since Phantasm, and I didn't know how good of an actor he was. Reggie worked here, and there was nothing. Not a starring actor. Yeah, I will be honest too. I don't think Michael Baldwin is that good of an actor. I'll be honest. Like, I don't even think. Like, I think he's good in the original. However, when we get into part 3 and part 4, and even part 5, I don't think he's that good either. And the same, I will say the same thing with Bill Thornberry. He shows up in part 3 and part 4. I think he's awful in those movies. I really like him in the first one, but I don't know. Both of them, it's almost like they both forgot how to act. I don't know. Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you. Good jump scares are essential. Had a good one. Yeah, I just don't. It just kind of boggles my mind because it seems like nowadays these critics, like a lot of things you'll see in review, and guys like Stuckman and guys like the Rotten Tomatoes people, they'll say if it's bad, it'll be like, oh, jump scares, haha, like this is horrible. Like what the fuck? Like what? Are you kidding me? Like, are you telling me Friday the 13th Part Two is a bad movie? How many jump scares are in that fucking movie? Like, I just don't get. Like, to me, jump scares do not mean bad film. Like, that's just absolutely absurd to me. Like, I don't understand. Like, I understand when they're overkilled. I get that. I'll go with along with you on that. But to say that it's cheap, so to call, shut the fuck. Like, no, like you don't know the genre. Then, like, you really, I don't understand. Like, people have really grown against that shit, and like, I don't, I will fucking defend jump scares till the day I die because are you fucking kidding? We grew up with watching movies that had jump scares, so I don't get the fucking argument at all, man. I prefer Terminator 1 over Terminator 2. I prefer Alien over Aliens. So do I. I think with Terminator 1, Alien 1, and even, I'll throw this movie in, Phantasm 1, they're all simplistic and they're all in their own way horror. Whereas Terminator 2 becomes action, Aliens becomes action, and Phantasm 2 becomes action, especially towards the final act. There's not really much horror there. I mean, the special effects, definitely horror, but the tone, the feel, the action that's going on, for lack of a better word, it's totally becomes an action film. But nothing wrong with that, of course. It's just that's why I'm in that same camp. But there are some films where I'd probably say I like the second one better, like Halloween 2. I like the second Halloween better than the first Halloween. And I know that's a sequel that does the same thing. It tones up the volume. But for that movie, for that series, I liked that direction. I liked the kills better. I guess it doesn't become an action film. It becomes more of a hardcore slasher film. And in turn, I really like the setting better. I like the score better. I like the actor that plays the killer better, and I like the kills better, and it's just everything I think is a little bit improved. So, I'm not definitely in that boat all the time, but more times than not, definitely. I like Terminator, Alien, and Phantasm all over their respective sequel. Oh, Rocky! Nice moves, aka Gloria Lynn Henry. Of course, we're gonna be talking some Rocky right now. I don't like Chris Stuckman in my opinion. I don't mind him, but I just, he's one of those people. He goes, "Oh, jump scares and watch Hereditary." I can't. I can't. Like, it just annoys me. LOL. It's always a younger person that gives jump scares a pass for older movies. Yeah, I'll be honest, man. I have to give jump scares a pass because I don't know. It just boggles me. Like, I don't see how, like even you were saying before, Invisible Man, how that movie would not have worked without a jump scare, in your opinion. So I don't, it's just one of those things. I don't get that they harp on that. I think there's so much more to harp on. Like in a movie like fucking Midsummer, like there's so much more shit you can harp on than bad jump scares in fucking slasher films. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of the boat I'm in. But without further ado, we will get it right into part 3. Oh yes, this is Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead. Yes, Lord of the Dead. This one came out in 1994. This is 6 years removed after Phantasm 2 came out theatrically. I believe, unfortunately, the movie bombed in theaters, and this was Don Coscarelli's kind of reform, coming back to making a low-budget Phantasm film again. And in a lot of ways, it is similar in tone to the second film. Like, it does feel, again, like a fun road film. Like, you get introduced to the character of Tim, who's this like little kid, and he's an ass kicker. He's basically like the Macaulay Culkin, Kevin McAllister character, but in this horror movie world. And he's got a gun and he's shooting bad guys, and he's got this crazy ass frisbee with like blades on the end of it that'll like cut people up and shit. It's actually pretty insane. Like, this kid kills mad people in this movie, including spears, and saves people. And I loved this character. I thought the Tim character was a lot of fun. And then, of course, like Ty Junebug was saying, the Rocky character, who's this awesome badass chick who she shows up with this other girl, and her friend gets the spear to the head like right off the bat, and the blood goes drained out of her. And Rocky's like, "What the fuck is going on here? You know, and Reggie's trying to hook up with Rocky. And you basically, for most of this film, follow the three of them, Rocky, Tim, and Reggie together. And they're kind of kicking ass, taking names, and defending themselves from the spear. And you do have some really fun kind of tongue-in-cheek moments in this. Like there's a scene where Reggie, Tim, and Rocky, they're all at this kind of motel. They can only go for one room. There's only one bed. And Reggie's behind Rocky, and Rocky's like, so Tim, you want to just come in and sleep on the floor, or I'll sleep on the floor, whatever. And Reggie's behind Rocky, going, stay in the car, stay in the car. Like he's like mouthing, stay in the car, because he's like, please, I want to fuck her. Like it's so funny, man. It is. Oh my god, it's one of my favorite scenes. And Tim looks at him, and he's just like shaking his head. He's like, I'll just stay in the car. Like, and Rocky's just like, you sure? And Reggie's like behind her going, yes! Like, I love Reggie Bannister, man. It's so goddamn funny. Like, just like, please, kid, stay in the fucking car. I want to have sex, please. Like, I don't know. Like, that scene always gets a good chuckle out of me for sure. And I think that, all these three characters together, it's a weird trio, really is. I mean, it's Reggie Bannister, the fucking ice cream vendor from the first two films. It's who's now an action star. It's Rocky, who's this kind of badass recluse character who kicks ass, takes names, has these awesome nunchucks that she fights the spear with at one point. She's an awesome character, probably the best female of this entire series. I just love her character. I wish she was in a lot of ways, I wish she was in all of them. Like, I wish she was in part 2 and part 4 for sure, because I really liked her character. And then the Tim character who, at first, I remember when I first watched this, I was like, I don't know about this character, but I grow to really like him as the film goes on. And the stuff with those three in Phantasm 3, I love. I think that stuff is really good. Where the third Phantasm film loses me just a little bit is the stuff with Michael Baldwin and the Tall Man. Like, I'll be honest, I love the Tall Man in all of these movies. And I think there's probably the most iconic shot of the Tall Man is in this film, where the Tall Man is sitting on this kind of chair. It's the cover of the box set, actually, the Blu-ray, the Screen Factory box set. He's sitting on this chair in this candlelit room, and he has the spear in his hand, and he break the fourth wall. He's looking directly at the camera. I remember when I first saw that as a kid, I got some chills, man. It just absolutely I was just like, wow, like, this is fucking iconic stuff. I absolutely adore Angus Scrimm as the Tall Man in these movies. I think he does a wonderful, wonderful job. And in a lot of ways, to me, like, I can get off on a little tangent here, putting Angus Scrimm over, because he deserves it. May he rest in peace, because I think he's the reason these movies work for me. In a lot of ways, he's like that generation's. He's like a Bela Lugosi. He's like a Lon Chaney. He's like a Boris Karloff. He's one of those guys that, even though he wasn't in Hammer horror films before this, he almost becomes a low-key horror movie legend by being this character. And it's not just what he says. It's I think it's the look. It's the iconic look, and the way he walks and the way he moves. And it's just the intimidation factor. Here's this guy that, does he do that much? Does he kill that many people in the series? No, like his minions do, the spheres do. He has a lot of help around him. However, it never takes away from his credibility as the lead villain and antagonist of the series. I think it's just absolutely wonderfully done. I think Jebediah Morningside, as he's known to be, and of course, part 4, we'll get into that whole origin story of the Tall Man. But I think he does a wonderful job in all these movies. I just wanted to put Angus Scrimm over there. But with that being said, the stuff with he and Michael Baldwin in this movie, it kind of clashes to me with our other trio. Like, here we have these trio on the road, and they're kicking ass, taking names, fighting the spheres, having fun conversations, and Reggie's trying to get laid, and Tim is being a badass, and Rocky is being a badass. Like, I love the stuff with them. But then you have the stuff with A. Michael Baldwin and, A. Michael Baldwin and the Tall Man, and even Jody, who Bill Thornberry returns this movie. And I thought he did pretty bad. I don't like Bill Thornberry at all in 3 and 4, or 5 for that matter. I don't like him. I thought he just almost forgot how to act. It's just kind of off. Like, it's almost like trying to be like the first one, but they don't mix together in the same film. And you find out that they're in these spheres, there are people's brains. I never was so sure if I liked that or not. I think in some ways it's creative, but in other ways it's kind of really like, do I have to know that? Like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like maybe was a little bit over explained. Like, I don't need to know what's inside the fucking spear. Okay, it's a fucking spear that kills people. Like, I don't need to know that there's a brain in there. But you do find out more stuff that like, these Jawa people, they are actually people that have died, and Jebediah Morningside, the tall man, is making them come back to do his dirty work, stuff like that. Really cool. I like that stuff. But I don't know. It just seems like a lot of the stuff with the tall man and Michael, it seems like it's very kind of just there. It's kind of there in the film. It's not given much dialogue. It's given a lot of time, but a lot of it is told through visuals. And I don't know if it works as much in this film as it does in the following film. I think in the following film, they got it much better with the story between these two. The tension's there in this film, but I don't think they got all of the story there in this film when it comes to those two. That's like the one element of Phantasm Part 3 that never really worked for me. It's that stuff, because I love the stuff with the trio, the main trio. I love that stuff. The finale with them, they're all watching each other's backs. They're all fun, likable characters, and you enjoy taking this journey with them. It's just that I don't know which one you'd consider the side plot or not, but it does seem like the side plot with the tall man and Michael Baldwin, it just kind of falls a little bit flat for me. So that is what it is. But again, once again, a very fun finale, a very good pace. This is a really quick movie, a really fun movie. Another movie that kind of ends with a weird cliffhanger that I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. I liked that Rocky got away. Rocky, spoiler, Rocky gets away. She just goes, I'm done with this shit. Drives away. I loved that. I love that she survived. I guess you're supposed to think they killed the Tim character, although, we never see him die technically. It's kind of the same thing where it's the boy and he gets grabbed through the glass, just like how the first two movies end. But we never hear or see him. He's never even mentioned in part 4 or part 5. So I don't know. I guess the Tim character's believed to be dead, but I don't know. I like to think somewhere that Tim fought off all the fucking Jawas, shot them all in the head, and is somewhere now just chilling. I don't like to think that the Tim character died, because I thought he was badass and I thought he took names. So I like Phantasm 3, not one of my favorite movies of all time. Of the first 4, it's probably my least favorite, because I think part 4 is actually really underrated. So I will say that this one will come in at around, I'm going to come in at a 6.5 out of 10 on this one. I like this film. I think there are good parts of it, but again, I do think that there's some instances where I wish the stuff with the tall man and Michael Baldwin was a little bit better than how it is. I wish they had taken a little bit more of the approach that they did with part 4 with those two in particular. But that being said, well, we can get some comments here. Halloween 2 is badass. You're not alone. I prefer the first one as well. Hell yeah. Always good to know there's Halloween 2 enthusiasts out there. Phantasm 3 the series went DTV. Yeah, unfortunately, that's true, but that's because Phantasm 2 bombed. And I'll be honest, Phantasm 3 and Phantasm 4 don't feel direct to video at all. At least to me, they don't. Like, they may look direct to video. The one that looks direct to video is fucking Ravager. I mean, we'll get there, but that movie looks fucking, yeah, that's when the series went direct to video, totally. I love, according to Google, Gloria Lynn Harry was born in 1929. That has to be wrong information. Yes, that is definitely wrong Wikipedia information. But hey, man, she still kicks ass, right? No matter what fucking year she was born. She's one of my favorite characters in the entire series. Absolutely love her. That shot is iconic. It's the only scene I've seen from Phantasm 3. It's really, I love that shot, man. Yeah. Yes, I do know. I do. He actually is behind the remastering of this. It's probably the only good thing he's ever done. Like, I don't mean to throw shade. But I fucking hate you, J.J. Abrams. I'm just saying. Yeah. I can't help it. I really kind of hate J.J. Abrams. But with that being said, with the Jar Jar Abrams shade thrown in there, that brings us to 1998's Phantasm Part 4, Oblivion. Oh, yeah. This one, I will say right off the bat, I think is the most underrated of the series, and I think it is so wrongfully hated. It really boggles my mind why people don't get into this one more, but I mean, I guess it is what it is. I'll try to go to bat for it a little bit here. Basically, this film is Don Coscareli's response to fans that didn't like or enjoy Part 3. See, a lot of the fans, by the time Part 2 and Part 3 came out, they felt, oh, this is silly. These are road films. These are action films. Come on, Don. You're lessening yourself. You're making these fun action road films and not creepy atmospheric horror films, dreamsicle horror films like the original. And this was Don Coscarelli's response to those people, because I think Don Coscarelli had been sick of hearing the negativity. He was just like, so you don't think I can go back and make a great atmospheric horror movie like Phantasm again? I'm going to go do it here. And man, I got to say, I think he made a really, really good return to form film here. And I think this is one of the better sequels of the franchise. I would put this over 3. I would definitely put this over 3, and I think I would definitely put this over 5 as well. Would I put it over 2? That's tough. I'd probably put 2 over this, but I like Phantasm 4 a lot. It basically gets a little bit into the origin of the Tall Man. And I remember as a kid when I started this and I read the back of the box, I remember being like, this is going to be the one you're going to hate, because I don't want to know the backstory of the Tall Man. I don't need to know the backstory of the Tall Man. With that being said, I like the backstory. I really like the backstory. I think it's actually fucking genius. And in a lot of ways, even though the mystique is a little bit taken away from that character, because that's always why I love the Tall Man. It was the mystique. So I didn't really want to know. Even as a child, I was like, I don't want to fucking see this. They go into the backstory, and I thought it was really, really well done. Basically, the Tall Man was actually this guy named Jebediah Morningside, and he owned the funeral home, and he was fucking around with time travel and basically discovered how to use time travel. And when he walked through these 2 little like silver pillars, he walks through and doesn't come back the same guy. He comes back as the Tall Man. He leaves Jebediah Morningside. He comes back the Tall Man. And now he's, evil and all this stuff, and starts wreaking havoc. And I liked that. I thought it was simple, but I thought it was very effective, because you meet Jebediah Morningside before he's the Tall Man, and he's the sweetest old man ever. He's like, oh, hello, I'm Jebediah Morningside, and can I get you some lemonade, and all this stuff. And like, I know it sounds goofy, but it really works. It gives this character a sense of, maybe this guy wasn't bad all the time. Maybe this guy started off like this guy that was trying to learn about time travel. Like the Back to the Future, the Christopher Lloyd character. In a lot of ways, that character had come back as an evil fucking Lord of the Dead, if you will. But I think that added so much to that character, because it just makes me more interested. Like, so that's how he was turned when he entered their dimension and came back as kind of the ringleader. Pretty cool stuff. I always liked that stuff. And this film, it definitely does tone down on the goofiness, but there is still some goofiness in there. Like when you follow Reggie in this movie, he actually meets up with this really, really good-looking woman. I believe her name is Heidi Mornhout or Marnhout. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. She is easily my favorite looking girl in the entire series. Fucking gorgeous, gorgeous, fucking blonde bombshell. Absolutely love her. She went on to be in the Don Coscarelli's of Bubba Hotep, so I'm pretty sure that they got along right, because they've made more than one film together. And you get her and Reggie, and they're talking, and you're thinking that, okay, Reggie's going to try to get laid again. Like, here we go. And there's this really fun scene where she is undressing, and you see Reggie's trying to like pretend that he's not looking, but he's really looking. And she gets into bed, and they're laying together, and he goes to make his move, and he pulls the covers off, and her breasts are the spears. And he's like, oh shit! Like, that is just one of the biggest boner kills of all time. Like, I remember I was watching this movie, I was like, oh my god, yes, like this girl's gonna get with Reggie. And the next thing you know, her titties are fucking spears. They're silver spears, man, with drills. Instead of nipples, they're drills. They're fucking. I was just bugging out. I remember as a kid being like, holy shit, like this is absolutely insane. But I love this. I thought that was a fun little kind of thing, like part 2 and part 3 that they throw in there. Reggie's part of the story does feel reminiscent of those movies, but it's a little bit toned down. Whereas I think the stuff with A. Michael Baldwin and the Tall Man, it's just absolutely awesome in this movie. I love, love, love their kind of interactions in this movie much better, because I think they do the visuals much better, and I think the acting is much better. There's a scene where Michael says, I've had it. I'm done with this. I can't take this anymore. I don't want to be a part of this. And he hangs himself. He kind of, is, you think he dies, and he dies, right? and you flash back to a scene that was shot for the original Phantasm, and you see the tall man gets hanged. And Michael Baldwin cuts him down from being hanged. He kind of talks him in. Listen, son, if you cut me down, I'll bring your parents back. And there's a scene where he doesn't want to do it, but he cuts him down. And then fast forward to this movie where Michael hangs himself. The tall man cuts Michael down, saying, "You did for me, I do for you. We have a lot of work to do." I love that. I think that was so fucking crazy. I never expected from where these movies go, especially with 2 and 3, for them to go here. I mean, I thought that was really interesting fucking direction to take this. And to be honest, I think this one is the most that feels like the first film. It feels a lot like the first film. It has that dreamlike atmosphere and aesthetic from beginning to end. It has the creepy old school score. It has stuff in it that, even though I feel they're explaining, it's interesting and it doesn't hurt the story. It doesn't hurt the mystique. In fact, I think it helps it. And once again, the Bill Thornberry stuff, it's kind of shitty. Can it be a little slow at times? Sure. But I think this is a return to form. I really do. I like this. I like everybody in this movie. I like the finale of this movie. And I would be remiss to say that I would have to say this is my favorite ending to any of the Phantasm films, because I think this should have been the ending of the series. I know we'll get into 5, we'll get into Ravager, but in a lot of ways, this was the perfect ending. It's just a little bit of a spoiler, and I will get into it a little bit. The ending of this movie, there's this battle with them and the tall man, of course, Reggie and Michael and the tall man, and the film kind of flashes back to when they're younger. Michael Baldwin and Reggie are in this car at the end, and they're talking about Jody, and they're talking about, maybe all of this is just a dream, and they kind of literally drive off into the moonlight, and the film ends, and for the longest time the series ended on that note, and kind of adding to the dream-like aesthetic, asking the viewer, were all these movies just a dream? Were all these movies just that? No jump scare at the end of this one. Just a question to the viewer. What do you think? Do you think it was all just a dream? Do you think the tall man defeated them and then this is just their last memory before death? A lot of different ways you can interpret this. And I like that. I like giving the decision up to me. I'm able to decide, hey, was this a dream? Was this bullshit? Was the tall man successful? I love putting that in the, so in a lot of ways this is not a spoiler, because in a lot of ways this movie, the ending of this movie, is up to you. And I think that you could have no better ending to the series than Phantasm 4 Oblivion. I really like this movie. I know a lot of fucking people hate it. Is what it is. I think, see, I just don't understand how you can bitch about part 2 and part 3 and then not put this over. Like, I will be honest, there are some stuff in part 2 and part 3 I don't like, and I mentioned it. This film, though, it is a total return to what the original does right, and I think it does it really, really well. I love Phantasm 4 Oblivion. It is one of my favorite sequels. I'm going to give it the same score I gave Phantasm Part 2. I'm going to come in at a 7 out of 10. Sorry, I think I have hiccups. So excuse me. But yeah, I really like Phantasm Part 4 Oblivion. Really good flick. 7 out of 10 for me. Really like this one. Let's see. Don Coscareli always said how he wanted to do time travel movie. And what I mean by that is more of a science fiction time travel movie, not a whole time travel movie. He said that in an interview. That would be really cool. I don't know if you've seen John Dies at the End. That's a really, really good one. I really like John Dies at the End. I like that one a lot. Classic, yes, dude. I'm pretty sure you're referring to the spear boobies, which as a child, when you see a woman that hot and you think you're going to see her titties and there are a bunch of spears they're trying to kill Reggie Bannister, I don't know if there's anything that can kill a boner quite like that, but it's pretty awesome. Yeah, that would be some rough stuff, spear movies. But yep, you see them in this movie. And I will say the practical effects in all 4 of these movies, there's no CG in any of the first 4. Really good practical effects. Really good stuff. Especially in part 4. I thought part 4, I thought that those effects were really good. It was some scary ass shit. Yeah, it's definitely not. I don't dislike Phantasm Part 4 at all. I think there are a lot of people that just kind of wrongfully hate on it, and it is what it is. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I could see it this way. If you really love 2 and 3, I could see how you'd hate 4. if you think 2 and 3 are a joke, like some people do, I don't. I 4 would have to be your favorite next to the first one. Like that's kind of. I like both styles, but I definitely like 4 a little bit better than 3. So I will put 1, 2, 4, and 3, and then of course we have to. We're there. We are at the finale of the series, a movie that, in my opinion, largely does not even need to exist. And is this the worst movie in the world? Probably not. I mean, it's not the worst, but it is definitely my least favorite of the series, and it is none other than Phantasm 5 Ravager. Yes, from 2016. Um, this is an interesting one to talk about because I don't necessarily despise it. Like it's not a movie that I just go but it's a film that I wish it didn't exist. I really wish this film did not exist. In a lot of ways, I can summarize this movie. This is like a fan film come to life, but somehow they got everybody from the cast, and including Angus Scrimm, who was on his deathbed. I believe he died the same year this was released. I don't even know if he saw the finished film. So may he rest in peace, though, because this was the last film he ever worked on. It's just one of those films that it's almost like the Rambo series. And a lot, you would never think I'd fucking connect Phantasm and Rambo, though, right? In a lot of ways, Rambo 2 and 3 are fun, awesome, kick-ass sequels. And then part 4, it like aesthetically returns to what the first one is, and it's still badass, awesome. And then you have the perfect ending. Like it's the perfect fucking finale for the Rambo series. Rambo finally goes home, and you hear the original score and the credits roll. That's how Rambo should have ended. There never should have been a Rambo 5 Last Blood. With that said, though, with the Rambo 5 Last Blood, again, I don't consider that to be a horrible film. It's just not on the level, and it's not worthy of the first 4. It's just not. It's one of those. It should never have been made because there's nothing other you can really gain out of it other than the fact that they probably just wanted to make money. I understand that the director, I always forget, I don't even know his damn name, but it wasn't Don Coscareli that directed Part 5. I could tell he's a big fan, and my respect goes out to him. But hey, my respect goes out to anybody that tries to make their own original film. And he tried to make this his own original Phantasm movie. And hey man, my salute to you. I'm not trying to shit on a young up and comer. I'm really not. But in a lot of ways, I just wish this movie hadn't been made. I just think it's unnecessary. It really is unnecessary. It basically tells a story. Reggie is in a retirement home, kind of. He has dementia now, and you fade back and forth with him in the home and his flashbacks of fighting the spheres and the tall man, and it kind of grows from there. Bill Thornberry comes back, Michael Baldwin comes back, and you get this whole finale on the red planet and all this stuff. And it's not it's I feel terrible. Like I don't want to be mean about this. Like I'm trying my best to be nice. Like it's just not my cup of tea, I guess, at the end of the day. It's not the worst film in the world. It's not a film where I'd go, fuck this movie. I've got to start throwing things. Like it's not that bad. It's the bad things about it is the look of the film. It looks like a really, really, really cheap Lifetime original movie. And even then, it looked like somebody would try to go in there and polish it, and it has an ugly, ugly look to it. There's no fucking atmosphere, none. And in a Phantasm film, that huge negative, huge. That's like not showing your fucking kills in a slasher film. You can't have a Phantasm film with no atmosphere, and this Phantasm film has no atmosphere. They try to pull off the dream sequences, but they don't feel like dream sequences. Everything feels the same. Whether they're in the dream, whether they're in reality, it doesn't feel like any difference. It just feels like, oh, they cut the scene, You don't feel that in part 4. In part 4, you're like, holy shit, I'm in a dream world right now. And some of the landscapes of that image of Michael hanging on the tree and just this kind of like deserty looking area and the blue background, that stuff is excellent. It just pops, especially in high def. I mean, I don't know if I've seen the HD transfers of this. These are the regular standard def transfers, but I have since seen part 4. I believe 1, 3, 4, and 5 are all streaming on Amazon Prime for free, so that's pretty cool. I watched the HD transfers this past time, and part 4 and 3 really did pop in HD. I mean, they looked excellent. Yeah, like that's a big negative for me. But I will say I think Reggie Bannister does a good job in returning, and I think that he does a good job. It's nice to see Angus Scrimm, even though he does look pretty old and he doesn't have too much to do. It's nice to see him back. It's a nice love letter to what the first four were. I just almost wish it wasn't an official canon movie of the series, if that makes any sense. Not the worst movie in the world, but one that I will very, very rarely go back and rewatch. And as a matter of fact, and I will be perfectly honest with you, I didn't even watch this for this episode. I usually do I watched all four of these again, all four of them. I watched the features on part one. I watched interviews with Don Coscareli and the actors, and I went ham in prepping for the first four. Ravager, no. I don't care to put that much of my time into this movie. It's not a horrible film. It's actually painfully average because there was potential there, but they didn't have the fucking money. They didn't have the right director. You can't do Phantasm without Don Coscarelli. It's the same thing with Scream. You can't do fucking Scream without Wes Craven. You can't. There's a lot of series like that. You can't do a Of the Dead film without George Romero. It's just one of those like unwritten rules, you know. And without Don Coscarelli directing, you really felt that this was just a passionate fan making a fan film, and it somehow is canon of the series. So I will come in. I'm going to come in with a 4.5 out of 10 for Phantasm Ravager, just a little bit below average for me. But that said, I guess there are worse films out there. There are worse horror movie sequels out there. I've actually done a whole episode talking about bad horror sequels. So it's not in that level at all, but it's just not, I don't know, man, not my cup of tea at all. I really like all the Phantasm movies. They definitely all have an Argento type feel to all of them. That's inspired Don Coscarelli. Yes, exactly. Like that. I completely agree with you, Ty. Like this movie, it feels like Dario Argento in America. Like it's exactly how it feels. And you know, the stuff that they don't explain and the visuals and the aesthetic, it's all stuff from Argento. But it's nice to see an American filmmaker go out there and do that. Like, dare I say, there's not a John Carpenter film, maybe other than I would say Prince of Darkness, that feels like that. George Romero, couldn't name one. Wes Craven couldn't name one. Like, it's cool that Don Coscarelli was able to make an entire series of films that feel like that. That's not easy to do, and it's not easy to be that creative. And in essence, made one of my favorite horror franchises of all time. So I absolutely love the Phantasm movies. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's another thing, Aiden. I just kind of pulled that up on the spot. But it is true. In a lot of ways, they're very similar. You know, it is similar. Like the first one's my favorite. Well, granted, with Rambo, I like part 2 the best. But 2 and 3 and Phantasm 2 and 3 are very similar. You just tone it up. You know, part 4 is the return to form and the perfect ending. And then part 5, unnecessary. So the Rambo and Phantasm, they kind of go a little bit together there. Weird connection, I know. Ravager started out as a web series, then Don forced to be a movie. I could be wrong on that one. I don't know. I don't know the background. I don't really care about the background, to be honest with you. Which is worse, the CGI and Survival of the Dead or Ravager? Survival of the Dead. It's definitely worse than Survival of the Dead. And that's coming from a Romero enthusiast. The CGI in Ravager is bad, but the CGI in Survival of the Dead almost ruins that movie. Like, it actually at times can make that movie unwatchable. Like when the zombie gets shot in the mouth with the flare, that's fucking horrible. Like it actually is cringeworthy bad, man. Is Ravager worse looking than Dracula 3D? Yes, definitely. I would say it looks like a fan film. It looks like somebody got two fucking nickels to rub together, somehow got the fucking cast, and just made a movie, you know? And it's just, I don't know. Like, I feel terrible because I know the guy seemed like a cool guy and he seemed like he loved it. And I don't want to put anybody down that's a big fan like me. But I just feel like it's just not worthy. It's just not. And after 4, I can't see making a 5. I think 4 is the finale. Like, that is how you do it. Some would say anticlimactic, but that's why I think it works. It's up to you. What do you think? Was it a dream? Did the tall man win? I'm sure there's plenty of interesting theories out there, which I'd love to read into, someday. But that is the Phantasm series. Absolutely love this series. I'm a big fan. I've always been since I'm a little kid. The first one just encapsulated me with its beautiful visuals and atmosphere and creativity. Part 2 and 3 are very fun road movies, and Reggie Bannister almost becomes the action star of the series. He and his quadruple barrel shotgun and trying to bang all these women. A lot of fun. Of course, the Tim character, this little kind of rebel character, absolutely love him. Rocky kicking ass, taking names with nunchucks. Really have fun with her in part 3. And part 4, the return to form. I think the return to the horror aesthetic and the dreamlike atmosphere and the whole origin with Jebediah Morningside as the tall man. Love all that stuff. The ending. And then Ravager, just unnecessary. That is the first word and the best word that comes to mind when I think of Ravager. Unnecessary. But that is going to be it for the Graveyard here this week. I thank you all for watching. Need Gore, Aiden, Ty. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate your support and watching me this whole time. I will be back next week. I'm looking to have my good buddy AJ on the show. This is going to have a fun conversation. Originally, we're going to talk I Spit on Your Grave, but now he was saying he wanted to do horror movie childhood memories. So I would be so down to do that. I'd have to make a list because this, believe it or not, this would probably be one of them. Like watching this film, and especially watching part 4 with the whole spear booby scene. Like, because when I first saw that shit, I ran. I remember being a little kid just running around in circles, being like, "Holy fucking shit! Holy fucking shit!" Running around, you know. Those were the times, and there's a little bit of that guy still in me, so it is what it is. But thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate your support as always, and thank you for tuning into the Graveyard. I will put this up on Instagram and Facebook and everything. I'll promote the hell out of this, and I hope you guys have an awesome Friday, awesome weekend, awesome sauceum, if you will. Stay beautiful, guys. Too sweet. Long live the tall man, Reggie Bannister, and of course Rocky and Tim, because Tim never died. I refuse to believe that. So, too sweet. Peace, everybody.